Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to Season 3 of the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone Puzzle Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and pregnancy, an integrative, holistic nutritionist, doctor of natural medicine and training, creator of the Hormone Puzzle Method, an infertility warrior, two-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptoms of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the field of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Not to mention, stay pregnant, have a healthy super baby, and easy postpartum. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests, sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you all so much for tuning in and being amazing listeners. So now let's get started on your road to transformation. On today's show, we have Sara Korzeniewski. She is a registered dietitian and functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. She specializes in helping clients get to the root cause of their adrenal, hormone, and digestive imbalances. After not finding answers from any practitioner for her own hormone and digestive symptoms, she created the Organic Dietitian, utilizing a comprehensive mind, body, spirit approach. Now she helps other busy women investigate the deep root causes of their own top health complaints and helps them find health freedom that they deserve. Today's summit episode is all about mitochondrial health and nutrients for fertility, as well as water and how this is so important for optimal health and fertility. Now let's welcome Sara to the show. Hey, Sara, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to talk about this. We haven't had a topic like this. I'm super excited about it.
All right. Well, cool.
Yeah. So let's just get started. I would love to hear more about you. You know, what inspired you to begin working in women's health and around fertility?
Yeah. So my name is Sara Korzeniewski. I'm a registered dietitian and functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And probably like a lot of women got very frustrated with kind of our lack of really healthcare out there. You know, it was more Band-Aids. It was throwing birth control at every symptom. And it was like, oh, well, we'll just watch things and see how they play out without really being provided any real action steps. And being really interested in more functional health, kind of decided to take matters into my own hands a little bit and started getting a lot more training and realized that there really are solutions out there that women just don't really get access to. Mm-hmm. And so then I created my business, which is the Organic Dietitian. And so now I have my own private practice where I focus mainly, like you said, on women's health and really being able to provide them with more education and helping them investigate their root causes. Mm-hmm. Right? Again, are things that we're seeking out more of, but we really just don't have a healthcare system set up to be able to address that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yes, we work on root cause here all the time. So very important. Mm-hmm. I love that. So the name of our summit is the Solving Infertility Summit. So what does that mean to you?
You know, I think that it's really, again, spreading the awareness about health promoting factors that can best support, you know, optimal health and therefore, you know, fertility for anyone that has the desire for that.
For sure. And there's so many things that you can do to actively optimize your fertility. So I'm so excited that we're talking about this today. And so let's dive into mitochondrial health. This is something that you talk about, and I don't feel like we've talked about it enough here. So what does that mean? Why is it important?
Yeah, so mitochondria are really, we call them the powerhouse of our cells. So I kind of think of them as like our batteries.
Right.
So they really convert the foods that we eat into energy that our bodies use, in the form of ATP.
Mm-hmm.
And they have many, many roles, but they also are the engine of our eggs. So for women that are looking to support their fertility, the health of our eggs is very important. And, pretty much most cells of our bodies have hundreds of mitochondria in them, and our eggs are ultimately no different.
Mm-hmm. And I would assume same with sperm. People don't think about that, sperm is just the cells, and making sure that mitochondria health is healthy as well is so very important.
Yeah, I was going to say sperm definitely does, but not quite to the degree that the eggs do. So it is important definitely for both men and women.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so what are some things that we're doing that might be impacting our mitochondrial health?
Well, so kind of going back a little bit to how the mitochondria impact fertility, as our egg cells start to mature, right, it takes about 3 months to mature an egg. So we also have to think about what we're doing over time, right? Not just like on that day.
Mm-hmm.
And as the egg cells mature, mitochondria actually multiply by about 100,000 to 500,000.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And potentially even more in a fully mature egg. There's actually more mitochondria in one egg than in any other cell in the body.
Wow.
And this is because the egg is actively preparing itself for the increased energy demands of successfully getting fertilized and eventually, developing into an embryo.
Mm-hmm.
And, the window between ovulation and implantation, which is, maybe around 7 days or so, the embryo is really just kind of more or less free floating. So it is dependent on energy production by any existing mitochondria in the egg at the moment of ovulation. And so if there isn't a surplus of mitochondria, the embryo can run out of juice and have problems with development before implementation can actually even be achieved. So to increase the egg quality so that fertilization and implantation of a healthy embryo can occur, then we need to really increase the number and improve the efficiency of mitochondria. And so in short, like I said, there are lots of jobs of mitochondria, but the two big ones that are kind of most critical are producing that energy, right, or that ATP, but also monitoring for threats. So your mitochondria essentially are monitoring your environment, not only internal, but external. And so things like our toxic load, any infections we might have, including in the gut, any sort of even physical, mental, or emotional trauma. So like the nervous system plays a huge role, which we all pretty much have to some degree. If we're not sleeping and our circadian rhythms are out of whack, our poor lifestyle habits, right? Running around, doing all the things and not ever having time for ourselves, ongoing psychological stress. And then obviously, nutrition plays a big role in that too, because your cells need certain nutrients and your mitochondria are no different, in order to properly function. So there's really a lot of factors. This is why in my work, trying to educate people on the fact that health is a multifactorial thing. There is no one magic bullet out there. We really want to address as many of these stressors as possible, and then supporting the body's in the best way we can.
And I love that you mentioned gut health, because I feel like it's not talked about as much as it should be. I think that's changing, but I still think it's a little bit of an unknown for a lot of people. So let's talk about that. How does our gut really affect things and, with our overall health and fertility?
Yeah, the gut is such a huge, I always say the two most really important aspects on any health journey are your nervous system, which involves even the brain, and the gut. Those two things are required to be in balance for optimal health, no matter what we're dealing with. We don't even have to really have obvious GI symptoms to have gut issues. I think when it comes to fertility, a lot of women first think of my hormones, right? Well, my hormones are out of balance. Progesterone is low, those types of things. And that definitely can be the case. But those things don't just get thrown out of balance, right? There's deeper reasons for that. And so that's where there's a lot of areas we can consider, including some of the ones that I just mentioned there. But the gut is another big factor, because this is where even if we're eating quote unquote healthy foods, right? Which it's like people tell me that and I'm always like, well, what does that mean? That can
Exactly.
mean a lot of different people. But it's like, we're also only as good as what we're digesting. What can we break down? What can we absorb? And there's unfortunately such a high rise of gut issues, in part because of our modern day society and, the foods that we're around, our environments, our toxins, the stressors that we all have, modern medical convenience, including, medications and things like that have made achieving and having optimal gut health a lot more difficult, I say, in the sense that we really need to be a lot more mindful of it. It's not something we can just have typically without really thinking about our lives and what we're putting into our body and, how can we best take care of, the digestive system. So as far as the mitochondria goes, if there are dysfunctions within the gut, an imbalance of bacteria, if there's an infection of some kind, if we aren't breaking things down, then this is one of those things that can trigger the mitochondria to start working on trying to kind of heal that versus making energy, in the form of ATP. And if we're not absorbing enough nutrients, then again, the mitochondria and hormones even don't have enough nutrients they need to be optimally in a good spot.
Exactly. And we talk about that a lot here where, you can be eating the most clean, healthy diet in the world, but if you're not absorbing what you're eating, then it's kind of like, what's the point? So you definitely have to make sure that gut is optimized and working the way that it should. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah, I think too that people don't always realize that if the gut is dysfunctional, even healthy foods can essentially become toxic within the gut, because the gut can be one of the biggest sources of toxicity in the body. These bugs are producing toxins. They're turning potentially healthy things into more toxic substances. And so, there's enough evidence now to show that literally your gut microbiome and the bacteria in your gut and how your gut is functioning factors into every other system in the body. Every organ in your body is somehow touched or affected by our gut health.
For sure. And that's the same too with, your gut health is going to affect your baby's gut health, and it's all kind of tied in there together. So the healthier you can become now before you get pregnant, and the healthier you can get your gut, the healthier your baby and then your baby's baby. And it can go on for generations. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something I think we don't always really consider when it's time to think about, starting a family, that we actually inherit our indigenous gut bacteria, which is the bacteria we're born with, right, from our parents, and they have inherited it from their parents. And so essentially your gut bacteria is kind of a mishmash of all of your ancestors, what their gut bacteria was like, because I kind of consider our gut bacteria is like a fingerprint. It's unique to us. Not everyone's going to have the exact same strands, the exact same amount of strains and things like that. And if we lose our indigenous gut bacteria for any reason where it completely gets wiped out, like we can't really always get it back or get it back to the degree that we had it before. So if your parents had any sort of symptoms that could tie back to gut, if your grandparents, struggle with health, then it's not really surprising these days to see poor gut health or certain issues run in families. And sometimes people want to say, oh, well, it's just in my genetics because my mom had this, my aunts have this. And I was like, there could be a small percentage of that, but I would say it's because you've all inherited a lot of gut bacteria, because you can inherit good stuff, but also the not so good stuff, right?
Right.
And, and you've probably all been around a lot of similar environments, potentially eaten a lot of similar foods and things like that. And so we do have a lot more control, but, we're seeing kids younger and younger, with all kinds of health issues that oftentimes can be influenced by the health of their gut. I mean, babies who've not even eaten a single bite of regular food, who are experiencing, chronic cases of eczema and things like that. And so, the state of our gut health starts long before we're even born. Mm-hmm. And so the more we can work to really get that into good shape, the better off future generations are going to be.
For sure. For sure. Oh, I love it. We are going to take a short break and hear a word from our sponsors. We're going to come back in and we're going to dive into practical tips. So what do we need to do to optimize our guts? What foods do we need to be eating and what supplements do we need to be taking? So all that when we come back. Hey y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. Hey ladies, I am so excited to invite you to our upcoming summit, the Solving Infertility Summit. Learn from over 50 amazing women's health experts, life-changing solutions to help you solve your infertility puzzles and optimize your natural fertility so you can finally get pregnant, stay pregnant, have a healthy super baby, and an easy postpartum. Don't delay, register today. We go live January 17th. Also check out our VIP package for more access and amazing gifts. I cannot wait to see all of you there. Hey, Sarah, welcome back.
All right. Happy to be back.
All right. Let's dive into practical tips. What are 5 things that we can start doing today to start to solve our infertility puzzle?
Well, number one, I would say, especially when it comes to gut health and maximizing your nutrition, the 2 top factors that I do when I work with clients is going to be eating to reduce inflammation and making sure that we're balancing blood sugars with whatever it is that we're eating. And this is going to look different for everybody. There really is no one size fits all approach. It's ultimately going to depend on you and your body, the state of your gut health. Some people might need to do certain things differently initially when they're healing and then can kind of broaden the diet, from there. But typically what I find is the common denominator of a lot of clients is eating enough animal protein. Mm-hmm. And low protein diets specifically can actually cause damage to the mitochondria in those egg cells. And I typically find women very much undereat animal proteins, quality, right? Trying to get grass-fed and as much of that as possible because the nutrients in there are going to be more bioavailable to us. Mm-hmm. They're also going to help better support blood sugars and making sure we're getting enough healthy fats. And I even love more animal fats, in particular, like the grass-fed butter and things like that, as kind of the focus because that can be very, easy on the digestive system, essentially, and support blood sugars. I would also say, obviously, getting enough sleep, which sounds easier said than done, but prioritizing that. Like, are you getting to bed at a decent time? Do you have good evening habits? Are you watching, a lot of electronics and getting more exposure to blue light, those types of things. The nervous system and good emotional health, also super critical. I know a lot of times people want to jump into diet and supplements, but I would even say potentially working on the nervous system as a good starting point. And there's a lot to discuss on this, but some basic things people can start doing is, meditating and even just having boundaries and saying no to things that don't serve us, and really just changing, like, think about the thoughts that come up into your head on a regular basis. Do they tend to be more negative type thoughts? Like the I can't, I'm not good enough, those types of thoughts, and kind of reframing them into some of the more positive thoughts. And ultimately, to have healthy mitochondria, right, your cells need the building blocks for producing ATP as well. Mm-hmm. So certain vitamins and minerals can definitely play a role. So some B vitamins, but also minerals are super, super critical. And I run hair tissue mineral analysis testing with clients, which is looking at minerals at more of a cellular level. And I have never seen anyone have adequate mineral status.
Wow.
Minerals, we cannot we can't make minerals, right? We have to get them through the diet. But unfortunately, our soils are depleted. Our guts are so that we're maybe not absorbing. Plus just stress causes us to deplete more minerals. So that tends to be key. So like magnesium is a really important one. Mm-hmm. Copper and iron being in balance is another huge factor for mitochondria. And what I see on a lot of HTMA tests with women, I have a lot of posts on this on my website and on Instagram and everything too, but like these minerals, copper and iron, typically we don't need a lot of them from supplements. We actually have a lot of that in our body, but it's being stored. It's not being bioavailable. So it's not usable to the mitochondria. So we can actually become toxic in copper and iron, which isn't what we want. So there's a lot of kind of factors that goes into it, but really looking at the minerals in your body and helping to balance those out. And just, again, supporting a lot of the things that I've mentioned, all can, help to kind of get the ball rolling as to making certain nutrients also more bioavailable to the body, like copper and iron. So, not much of a one size fits all approach, but hopefully that gets people thinking a little bit and maybe even reaching out to someone like myself to like work with, someone that can really guide you in these, because obviously there's a lot to unpack here. Mm-hmm. And so this is just a bit of the tip of the iceberg. So, but hopefully those are some good starting points.
For sure. And so what would we do if we found out we were low in minerals? Would that be where we would need to supplement if we found that out through somebody like you, or getting the right test?
Well, what I like to do is, again, I use very much a multifaceted approach. I use mind, body, spirit because, I think we want to run labs, see something low and replace it.
Right.
With a supplement, right? But in my mind, yes, that is sometimes needed, especially when it comes to minerals, because again, we are losing minerals even just in our sources that we used to get minerals from. But sometimes that can still be band-aiding a little bit if we don't address what's causing those minerals to be low in the first place. So then this again might go back to, is there something going on with the gut? Is stress really high? Yeah. Is diet not, conducive to being able to get enough nutrients? So I do typically like to look at foods first. Is there something that, is going on in the diet that we can optimize? Because Mother Nature did an awesome job of trying to make sure that the right nutrients and the right ratios and because, vitamins, minerals work with each other. Mm-hmm. They're not meant to work in isolation. So if we start supplementing with something without really understanding the relationships, we either might not be getting the benefit that we think we are, or we could be potentially causing something else important to get thrown out of balance. But, I think that there are a few things that I could, suggest for most people. Number one, when it comes to supplementation, I always say mineral rich salt.
Mm.
Even if it's Celtic salt, Redmond salt, things like that, where it's sodium, but there's a lot of other important trace minerals in it. We've been kind of taught as a society to fear salt.
Right.
But that's actually one way we can get some more minerals through. And I pretty much end up, recommending more of that to pretty much all my clients, no matter, what. And even just eating more like organ meats, which isn't supernatural to us, And if someone is not able to or willing to or can source quality organ meat, which I totally get, I'm kind of one of those people that's hard to do, then you can actually find those things in capsule form, right? So you can supplement with, organic livers and, kidneys and any sort of organ you can get in capsule form as well. And that's actually another pretty good source of nutrition that's more of a food based.
Gotcha. And I think too, what you mentioned, why it's so important to work with a practitioner like you or I, because, we can guide you through this where you're not just like picking something and like, oh, I think I might be low in iron because I don't eat a lot of meat, so I'm just going to take iron, or, the same with magnesium. You really want to know what you need and get it through food first. But then if you need to supplement, you can, but definitely working with somebody who knows what they're doing that can guide you. I think that's an important point.
Yeah, I think it's worth it at the end of the day because the human body is one of the most complex systems we have because it's like, it's living, it's breathing. It's not like your car where it's like just stagnant. It is what it is. And like every car, if it's the same model, it's the same.
Right.
Same makeup, has the same parts, like all those things. It's working the same. It's like the human body, we're all so uniquely individual. And, really making sure that we're looking at and we have that understanding of how all of these systems work together.
For sure. So tell us, what is one piece of advice you could give us, maybe somebody that's just starting on their fertility journey or somebody that's been on it for years?
Yeah. I always would say start with the basics, start with the foundational things because, sometimes it's not always ideal to spend a lot of money running labs and on supplements when we're still stressed to the max and we're not sleeping well and, we are not eating a great diet, those types of things, those are things that you can start kind of working on, everyone really should work on. And the more that you can even work on those things for yourself, the better you can also then teach your children, that those things are important for them to do for themselves too, right? So we don't end up in this kind of vicious cycle. And if someone's been working on it for a really long time, it's unfortunate that, that's the journey. But hopefully today, I've been able to give some maybe additional insights that person wasn't ever told before, and that I really truly believe in the vast majority of cases that there are reasons for things, and that there are root causes. And of course, there's going to be exceptions to that, sometimes, but, to not really lose hope and, just to keep on the journey and just continuing to kind of uncover one rock at a time.
For sure. Well, tell everybody where we can find you. Are you on social? What's your website?
Yeah, so I am the Organic Dietitian. I would say dietitians with a T, not a C. Some people get that messed up, which I get. And so that's my website, theorganicdietitian.com. So a lot of articles and even some recipes there. I also have my free Heal Your Gut for Good 4-part video training on there people can sign up for. I spend most of my social media time on Instagram, but I'm also on Facebook as well. And again, it's at the Organic Dietitian.
I love that. And we'll have that all in the show notes under this video. Awesome. So tell us where, any final thoughts you want to leave us with, any words of wisdom or encouragement?
Yeah, I would say the health journey for anybody really isn't an easy one. I think that there are some instances where we have just been kind of programmed to think that things should happen very quickly, and that if they don't, then, there's something wrong with us and whatnot. And I would say a true health journey where we're really addressing the root causes, which is what I hope most people strive for, because that's where long-term solutions stem from, that it takes patience. It is going to be an up and down process, but, I've had to learn over the years and change my mindset as to my worthiness for that. My worthiness to spend what I needed to spend, time, energy, money, whatever, on my health, because it's the most valuable thing that I have. And without it, what is left,
Right.
And that took a long time too for me to really kind of wrap my head around. And it's scary. And again, that's kind of normal for us to have those thoughts and feelings. But that's why I really try to include a lot of the mindset work, and nervous system work as well with clients, because, it isn't easy, but you don't have to do it alone.
I love that. I agree. Well, thank you so much for being here, Sara. It was so fun getting to know you and having you be a part of our summit. So thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to share my passion.
Yes. And thank you for watching today's summit episode. Until next time, bye. Wait, before you go, don't forget about our VIP package. Want access to all the speaker interviews, watch at your leisure and in your own time from the comfort of your own home. Also, come back and reference any episode at any time as your needs change and as you move through your journey. For one low price, you get all the summit recordings, unlimited access, our swag bag filled with so many different freebies from all of our experts and sponsors, as well as discounts on all of our services, plus a copy of my book, The Hormone Puzzle Method, Solving Infertility. All this and more for one low price to help you finally solve your infertility puzzle so you can get pregnant and stay pregnant. But don't delay, because this deal won't last long. Once the summit starts, it's gone forever. So to take advantage of this deal and lock in your savings, visit www.solving-infertility.com/purchase. Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alert, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. Make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.